On this interactive newscast. That means we don't just talk to you, we want you to talk back to us. So join our conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Use our hashtag 4to5. Well, Governor Roy Cooper says he will make an announcement about reopening schools and phase 3 next week. Today marks another record-setting day for coronavirus-related hospitalizations in North Carolina. It's also the second highest day of new cases reported. The governor says the state is experiencing delays in test results, but it's a nationwide issue.
Labs here and across the country are slowing down, partly due to a nationwide shortage of important testing supplies.
The state is now hiring additional contact tracers, trying to bring the total number up to 1,500 tracers. Governor Cooper says the state will also add 300 new test sites. Meanwhile, the Board of Education met again today. It's the second day in a row. They're getting ready for Governor Cooper's announcement on the future of schools, which again, the governor says will be sometime next week. The board is also talking about how federal funds will be distributed among schools. A new study shows schools could pay more than $2,000 per student to get them back to school safely. State Superintendent Mark Johnson says the board is making sure there's a plan in place to quickly distribute supplies. Johnson also says federal money could be used to expand remote learning options as well.
The CDC says it will not change guidelines for reopening schools. This after Vice President Mike Pence said that the agency was expected to release clearer guidelines. Well, Dr. Robert Redfield, who is the director of the CDC, said additional resources will be shared, but no revisions will be made. Redfield said guidelines are vague on purpose to give schools leeway to come up with individualized plans.
So President Donald Trump recently disagreed with the CDC's guidelines. We're talking about reopening schools. He was saying that he believes the guidelines are too tough. Brian Bennett joins us now live. And Brian, the president said everybody wants to see schools open. We asked people on Facebook, do they agree with this or not? What are they saying?
You know, Eric, as always, there's people on both sides of the fence, a lot of opinions here. So whenever you're talking about people's kids and things of that nature, it gets a little personal. We're going to start things off with Nancy. She says we need to listen to the medical, not the political. So basically the opinion of the health directors and things of that nature. Ms. York says, yes, at this point, I'm more worried about my kids' mental health and negative effects of isolation than the virus. Let's go back to school. All right, Angelica says, no way. This virus was so serious, we canceled school months ago to keep them safe. Now we want to throw them back like nothing. Too soon. And lastly, Karen says, no, there's no fundamental reason. Schools aren't here for my convenience as a parent. My job is to keep my son safe. So a lot of parents are really taking the initiative on this one.
This week, the State Department of Health and Human Services made a few adjustments to COVID-19 testing requirements, and the goal is to help slow the spread of the virus and make it easier to get a test. Here's a breakdown of what you need to know. On Tuesday, the Department of Health and Human Services announced a statewide standing order that you no longer need a doctor's referral to get a coronavirus test.
This new policy will reduce barriers to testing, especially for members, again, of our historically marginalized populations.
There will also be 300 additional free temporary testing sites across the state in traditionally underserved communities. It will be a mix of walk-up and drive-through.
This new initiative is designed to increase access to free COVID-19 testing in African American, Latinx, Hispanic, and American Indian communities in 100 zip codes that currently have limited testing access.
State Health Secretary Dr. Mandy Cohen says anyone with symptoms should get tested, but also
anyone who has been in close contact or been exposed to someone who has COVID-19 should get tested.
She stressed you shouldn't wait for symptoms to appear if you've been exposed.
So we have a lot of work to make sure that we are doing the testing that is needed to identify particularly the spread of the virus before people have symptoms.
Dr. Cohen said if you fall into any of these groups, you should get tested. A historically marginalized group who may be at a higher risk for exposure, people who spend time in high-risk settings like long-term care facilities or homeless shelters, essential workers like grocery store employees, gas station attendants, child care workers, construction workers, and meatpacking workers, frontline workers and first responders, and people who are at higher risk of severe illness. Test results could take anywhere from 24 hours to 6 to 7 days, depending on who is processing your results. If you've been exposed, Dr. Cohen says you should isolate for 14 days or until you get a negative test result back. Now, the state has a Find My Testing site tool on their website to link you to the nearest location near you. But because things are constantly evolving, they recommend calling a testing site before you head out there so you know the requirements and their hours of operation.
Let's turn now to your 4 to 5 roundup. We are learning more about the death of Forsyth County inmate John Neville. An autopsy report determined Neville had a seizure-like episode. He was cleared twice by medical staff, once in his cell and once in the medical unit. Reports say Neville was handcuffed and someone placed a spit bag over his head after he tried to bite a detention officer. They then say they moved him into a new cell to monitor him. The autopsy goes on to say he was placed face down on a mattress in the new cell and that officers restrained Neville by holding his shoulders, arms, and legs. Officers then tried to remove the handcuffs but had trouble doing so. The report says Neville stopped moving and talking while he was on his stomach. The nurse said she could not see Neville breathing, so staff turned him over to give him CPR. Neville was eventually taken to Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center for additional treatment. Testing shows he suffered a severe kidney injury and a drug test showed he had THC in his system. Officers never used a chokehold on Neville. He died on December 4th. There is more to this story, including charges filed against detention officers and the nurse. You can find all of the details on our website.
Authorities are searching for Glee actress Naya Rivera after she disappeared on a boat trip with her son in California. Her 4-year-old told police he and his mom went out swimming. One witness says 3 hours after the two went out to swim, the boat was found drifting with the boy on board asleep. The boy was not found and Rivera's ID was found on the boat. The Supreme Court ruled today that Manhattan's chief prosecutor can access President Trump's business records and tax returns. The Manhattan District Attorney is leading a criminal investigation into the president's business transactions and alleged hush money paid to 2 women who accused him of affairs before he was in office. The court also ruled Congress will not get access to the president's financial records. The hearing now goes to lower courts for further proceedings. Cow Appreciation Day is moving to a different day because of coronavirus. Chick-fil-A is postponing the annual event, which was supposed to happen today. Customers have been dressing like cows to get a free entree since 2005. Instead, the company will feature activities on Pinterest so families can celebrate Cow Appreciation Day together safely.
I had my udders all ready to go. What in the world? All right, well, we'll do it again next time. That's a joke. I don't have that, although I would. 85 degrees in Greensboro and Winston-Salem right now, 86 in High Point. I know my producer's going, what is wrong with him? 84 in Lexington, 85 in Asheboro. So tonight, 70 is probably as mild as we'll get. Remember, we hit that in the early morning hours the next day, so that'll be your step-out temperature if indeed you are getting out to go to work. Some of the storms that we could see tonight, although we don't see a great many of those, but there are just a few here and there. I'll show you the radar in a second, but they will taper off. Tomorrow, an isolated storm or two in the late day period again, and we think we'll reach those upper 80s, close to 90 degrees tomorrow. Couple of showers here and there across the area. Most of this, if you look back north and east, and that's actually where it's coming from because of this low pressure off the coast. But Roxborough getting some rain. That's moving down through parts of Alamance County and into Chatham and Randolph counties as well. We'll look at our 7-day forecast coming up in a bit. It's a lot of summer, folks, so it's kind of a lot of the same type of stuff. We'll have that in just a few.
Welcome back to your 4 to 5. Fist flew inside of a Lexington restaurant, seriously hurting a 61-year-old man. Two people are now charged in a fight. Witnesses say it started over a screaming toddler. Now, these photos taken by witnesses show a table and chairs overturned in the restaurant and Greg Cannon lying on the floor. Police believe the fight started with an exchange of words between two tables over the toddler. Cannon says the last thing he remembers is getting up from his table to pay.
I got hit by I was told I got hit by a chair and I didn't really have any part of this altercation at all.
Lexington police charged Brian Crow with assault and property damage. He was released under a $10,000 bond. A juvenile who was also arrested is facing the same charges. This case is still under investigation.
Well, it's time for us to hear from you about this. I asked you on my Facebook page, I want to know what you thought about this. And I asked you basically, what's the best way to handle when babies are crying at restaurants? Because it happens all the time. Here's what you had to say. Rosemary Cox says, a short cry from an infant isn't a big deal. Screaming baby, a different issue. It's in distress. It should be taken outside and calmed down, as should a screaming toddler. Too many parents seem to think public places entitle them not to deal with their kids. Interesting there. Anne Marie says, in the rare event our twins cried, we took them out of the restaurant until they calmed down. We've actually taken our meal to go a couple of times because they wouldn't stop crying. And Megan Malaris, we know her. She says, request outdoor seating. Bring the baby in a stroller so the baby has a safe place to sit and play. The stroller also allows one parent to easily get up and walk the fussy baby out until they calm down. Worst case scenario, one parent waits in the car with the baby while the other pays and gets the meals to go. I have done that myself. Lisa Rains Frisson says, well, if the baby isn't mine and there is an adult there trying to do something, I do nothing. The idea that someone is going to start a fight over this kind of situation shows how our country is deteriorating, she says. And Candace Lee Phillips says, you should take the baby outside until they calm down. Do not disrupt other people's peaceful mealtime with a fussy, crying baby. I do think it falls back on the parents. As a father of four, there have been innumerous times that I have picked up our kid or kids, in the case of the twins, and taken them outside for a little bit. And my wife and I would take turns. We'd take shifts, somebody outside walking until they calmed down. And if they didn't, after 10 minutes, we'd switch it back out again.
Yeah, I mean, the age-old saying, you don't know what someone's going through until you walk a mile in their shoes.
Yes.
I don't think we can really judge a parent's situation, why the baby's crying, especially when you're not a parent yourself. I don't want to comment on this particular case because I don't know the specifics and all of the details, but I do know if there's a baby crying in a restaurant and if I'm sitting there, I sympathize with those parents and they're just doing the best they can, right?
Yeah, they're doing the best they can and maybe just trying to get a meal for that night. You know, we don't know if they've been, locked inside for months, not being able to do anything. But if there's a crying baby, we got to figure it out.
Goodness.
Maddie, I have to say something here. There was one time that my wife and I, when Tyler was probably our fussiest baby, he was crying. We were at like Outback Steakhouse or somewhere. And I remember the former mayor, Keith Holliday, and his wife were sitting close by, and his wife, I kid you not, came up and said, here, let me have him. You guys need to enjoy some food. She picked him up and walked with him and kept him quiet so we could eat. And let me tell you, from a parent standpoint, that's about the nicest thing you do. Now, not that you want a stranger coming up and do that. I knew her, but that was so nice. Just gave us a break,
That sounds like something I do. Any excuse for me to hold a baby, I'm
yes.
there. All right,
yes.
Well, we want to continue to hear from you. How do you deal with a fussy child in a restaurant? Comment on our Facebook stream and use the hashtag 4 to 5. We'll be back. coronavirus, experts say Guilford County was already facing a housing crisis with 14 households per day being evicted. Now they say the pandemic has added to the burden. There are already 10,000 evictions backlogged in the state, and local experts say more are on the way here in Guilford County since the moratorium on evictions was lifted last month. The Greensboro Housing Coalition is using research and a UNCG partnership to help those at risk of being put out on the street.
Because of the pandemic, we twisted or shifted the focus from the resolution project to an emergency assistance program and a negotiation program. And now we're taking advantage of that groundwork that had been laid to resolve evictions and keep people in place today.
Well, they have now helped more than 100 families since May using state and federal funds. If you're facing an eviction, we have resources for you on our website. Just go to WFNYnews2.com.
You may remember yesterday, I had quoted a saying, which I love during these times. I say, in unusual circumstances, there are unusual opportunities. Well, the woman you're about to meet really took that to heart. She completely changed her business model due to COVID, and now that business is doing quite well. Meet Melissa Dolish.
Well, Melissa, it just sounds like you just came up with the right idea at the right time. Now, you started your company before all this, and then you had to make some adjustments. Tell me a little bit about the story.
Correct. So we are a commercial janitorial company focusing on mid to high rise office buildings. And when COVID came about, we had to kind of reinvent ourselves. And so we decided to invest in electrostatic sprayers, green clean tablets that are proven by the CDC to kill the COVID virus.
So when you guys go in, you're doing the regular cleaning, but then you're also spraying. Now, how does that work? Do you literally spray surfaces and walls, or how does that work?
We go in and do our regular cleaning, and then we use the electrostatic sprayers to spray common area high-touch surfaces, such as door handles, light switches.
I would think that all of a sudden, your business is doing quite well, going from incubating at the Nussbaum Center to maybe even launching on your own. How does that go?
We were a little worried, of course, at first that businesses would start shutting down and some of the larger customers reducing their square footage platform as more and more people are working from home and companies are able to get things done. But by adding this additional service, that helps us keep our employees on payroll.
So one of my friends said that unusual circumstances create unusual opportunities, and you are proof of that. Thank you for taking time out with us today, Melissa. Good luck.
It is so true. We all need to be thinking, right? You look for those opportunities, and sometimes what seems to be the worst of times can be very profitable if you're making the right decisions. All right, we've got much more ahead on the 4 to 5. We're coming right back with a look at your forecast.
Country music group Lady A, formerly known as Lady Antebellum, filed a lawsuit against a black singer in Seattle. Now, that singer, Anita White, accused the band of infringing on her trademarked name. Now, White has been performing blues and soul music for years as Lady A. Well, last month, the country music group announced a name change in the light of the increased push for racial equality in the nation. The blues singer says the band never reached out to her to ask if they could use her name, and the band's lawsuit just wants a trademark for the name Lady A. I mean, on first glance, this is just a little cringeworthy, you know, a band coming out, you know, saying they're going to change their name in support of racial equality, and then they're suing a black woman who has that name and has had it for a long time. What we didn't mention in the story, though, was that White was asking for $10 million for the rights to her name, and the band's like, no, I mean, we can't agree to $10 million. So, I mean, there's just a lot with this story.
Absolutely, Taisha. There is a lot with this story because Lady Antebellum, now going by Lady A, has been using the band name Lady A since about 2007. They actually filed for a trademark for it back in 2011, but now all of this is coming up, and it just seems to be some things that we don't know about this because White was posting on her Instagram page earlier in June that she was having conversations with the group. So I'm a little bit confused about how we got here. I think there are some details we just don't know at this point.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right because, you know, in what you were saying, Maddie, I wasn't aware of some of that. And I'm thinking, okay, now it becomes multifaceted. It's not just as simple as someone was using it before. And you got to think about, did they, you know, you can use a name, but did you copyright it? You know, that's going to be one thing. So I don't know. This is yet to really find out, I think, what's going on.
You're my music expert here. Do you know of any bands who have similar or the same names?
You know, so it's funny when if you Google a band's name, you'll get multiple bands with that same name. But if they're local or regional bands or something like that, nobody really cares that much. You know, if you're a national band and you've been copyrighted, then they should have done their due diligence and done what's it's like a intellectual property search that you get an attorney to do to see if anybody has that name copyrighted. That's usually done before you even come up with a name if you're that big.
Yeah. All right. Sorry to put you on the spot there. We're interested to hear your thoughts, though. Weigh in, use our hashtag 4 to 5. We'll be back.
Hey, ice cold milk and an Oreo cookie.
Hey, mic check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Mic check, bathroom body work.
Good afternoon and welcome back to your 4 to 5. I'm Maddie Gardner here with Eric Chilton and Tahisha Moyes. The gang's all here this afternoon. Of course, we're here to inform you, make you feel connected, and let you into our world. So use our hashtag 4 to 5 to stay connected. We'll start out here with your 4 to 5 roundup this Thursday afternoon. A San Francisco lawmaker is introducing a bill to ban racially motivated 911 calls. People could face criminal charges under the Karen Act. Karen, with a C, stands for Caution Against Racially Expletive Non-Emergencies Act. The act also applies to any calls focused on class, physical appearance, or religion. Multiple racially charged acts across the nation have been caught on camera, including when Amy Cooper called police on a black man in New York Central Park after he asked her to leash her dog. Cooper claimed she was being threatened. She later apologized and is now facing charges for filing a false report. A Florida man lost his job as an insurance agent for having a meltdown in Costco. The video went viral, showing the man shouting after he was asked why he wasn't wearing a face mask. The man approaches an employee who videoed the incident, and he screamed, "I feel threatened," at the employee after they came to help an elderly woman who expressed concern that the man was not wearing a mask. Costco stores around the nation require all employees and customers to wear a face covering inside. The North Carolina Department of Transportation overspent their budget by $39 million for the 2018-19 year. A state audit looked to see if the department made appropriate salary adjustments for the budgeted year to fit new state laws. A new pilot program was created in the law to give the DOT a chance to increase salaries. If employees accepted the pay raise, they would give up their longevity pay and career status. Now, longevity pay is a lump sum given to employees every year if they've been with the department for more than 10 years. Career status is a form of employment protection for state employees. The audit says the department did not make those salary adjustments. And the city of Greensboro is ranked in the top 20 for best run cities in America. That's according to Wallet Hub. The city ranked number 12 for high financial stability, total budget per capita, and education. Greensboro City Manager David Parrish says it is a team effort from everyone who works in the city. Finally, the Patriots formally signed our boy Cam Newton. He signed a one-year deal with the team. It breaks my heart a little bit. The Panthers released Newton back in March after he dealt with injuries for 2 years. Of course, Newton will replace Tom Brady, who announced he was leaving the Patriots back in March.
All right, the ADC says it is delaying competition for Olympic fall sports. The team not compete, they say, until at least September. Of course, they're trying to keep things safe there because this allows all the schools to focus on a safe return to playing sports. The delay covers all exhibition and non-conference games for men's and women's cross country, field hockey, and men's and women's soccer and volleyball. By the way, any of those rescheduled games will be decided on by the school division.
No minor league baseball this year. It became official last week, and one player decided to make the most of his time without baseball. The Southeast Guilford alum went back to an old job to bring in the cash. WFMY News 2's Amanda Ferguson tells us more about his job this season.
When your plans get canceled, you make new plans. That's what Greensboro native Josh Tobias did when the minor league baseball was canceled. He called up an old boss and asked to come to work to stay busy. Now here's a look at what he's doing. He's working at Bath & Body Works in Burlington. Tobias is usually in a much different uniform this time of year. He plays second and third base for the Red Sox affiliate. When the minor league was canceled, he was part of the Pawtucket Red Sox roster. The Southeast Guilford alum says it was looking like he was about to have a good season this year, but he's glad he has an income right now and something to do to get him out of the house.
I've been working there every off season for the past 2.5 years. I started in 2018 just as a side job that earns some extra money so I could pay some stuff off, and then I just kept going back. I only told myself 1 year, but I just kept coming back, and then it kind of worked out where I was like, well, I'm not really making a lot of money now, so I might as well just do this. And my boss said, yeah, come back. So I've been doing that every day now.
When he's not working, Tobias says he's working out or he'll play baseball with his dad. Oh, and by the way, I asked him what his favorite scent is. He tells me it's Island Margarita.
Josh, I absolutely agree. It is what I have diffusing in my wallflower right now. If you know, you know. Let's move on here. The NFL and Players Union are now working on a plan to allow players to opt out of the season because of coronavirus. Now, the players would have to announce their desire to sit out for a season by a certain date. That date has not been announced yet, and it's possible that opting out could have an impact on their contracts, but again, it's not clear how. Amazon is the newest retailer to say they'll stop selling Washington Redskins gear. People who sell that gear on Amazon will have 48 hours to take it down from the site. The team says they are now considering changing their name. And Stanford University is cutting 11 sports teams to manage financial difficulties because of the virus. The school is getting rid of men's and women's fencing, field hockey, lightweight rowing, men's rowing, co-ed and women's sailing, squash, synchronized swimming, men's volleyball, and wrestling for the upcoming school year. 20 support staff positions will also be cut. The school estimates a $25 million setback for the upcoming school year and a total of $70 million over the next 3 years. Cutting the 11 sports teams permanently, they say, will save the school more than $200 million.
And the Ivy League say that Division I sports will not play this fall because of the coronavirus pandemic, and the league will possibly move some of those sports to the spring if the coronavirus pandemic is under control at that time. So those 8 elite schools do not grant athletic scholarships or compete for NCAA football championships, but this could impact the college sport business in general. The Ivy's decision affects all sports played before January 1st, including soccer, field hockey, volleyball, and cross country. It also includes a non-conference portion of the basketball season. So obviously this decision is making waves across the country with those decisions to put those sports on hold until January. So I wanted to get your thoughts on, should all sports in all levels be put on hold until January? Let's get into what some of you had to say. Jeff Griffin says, I totally agree, and I believe more schools and conferences will do the same. Ryan Purdue says, the way that COVID-19 is still active in this country, I have a hard time thinking that sports could go for a while without being interrupted. And as much as I want to see NBA and basketball come back towards the end of this month, I think it will be short-lived. Adrian Jackson writes, 2020 off as a loss. No in-person anything until 2021 unless cases suddenly stop spiking. And Rosemary says no game is worth lives, especially as we don't know the long-term effects of this virus. And lastly, James writes, baseball is doable. They are playing in Korea right now. I watched a game on ESPN at 4 a.m. this morning. Guys, I got to be honest with you. I know sports is a big deal, and I know there are a lot of livelihoods at stake here, both the players and those who film the games, those who are there in the stands. But it's just, when you have the contact sport like that, I can't imagine that being safe.
Yeah, it's hard for me to imagine sports coming back anytime soon. I know a lot of people miss them, including a very popular sports network who's been tweeting out wildlife videos of cheetahs running around and passing it off as sports right now, Eric.
Hey, look, sports fans, and I'll take anything at this point. You know, it's I've seen people races, I'm not kidding, races with like little beetles and stuff. They're just doing anything to put them online. I miss sport. I think eventually what will happen is in the professional level, maybe not collegiate, but in professional level, I think players that just sign, I agree to play regardless, or some people, as we've already seen, are bowing out for the whole season. So we will see how it goes. Let's talk about our forecast, because we've got some things happening in our forecast. We may see some changes coming up in the short term. I want you to notice that on the radar that most of the rain is in the eastern half of the viewing area. Is it widespread? No, but it is sporadic, and some of those could be heavy at times. Even when we zoom out to a wider shot, you can see it's pretty scattered across the area. By the way, typical summertime pattern, late day pop-up showers or thunderstorms, no real rhyme or reason. That's why that's going on. Low pressure off the coast may have enough time to get some tropical characteristics, but it won't be any big deal for us. And it's really going to move north and probably no consequence either, except maybe some extra rain for coastal sections in the Northeast. Now, the weak cold front that you see, the kind of broken blue line there, that'll try to move through. Really, it won't have much effect on temperatures for us. More likely, just maybe helping us with maybe an extra shower. We'll keep a 20% chance of a shower in Saturday. It goes up to a 40% for Sunday. Low 90s, folks. That's Saturday through the rest of next week, from Monday through Thursday. I believe about 90 to 92 every day, just hot, with a late day pop-up shower possibility. Otherwise, partly to variably cloudy most days. That's our entire 7-day forecast.
All right, so I know you guys talked about this earlier in the week, the COVID-19 risk scale.
Yeah, so this was put out by the Texas Medical Association. You might remember seeing it, but it lists the activities from low risk to high risk.
And I talked to one of the doctors who had input into this scale, and he says it is not meant to be the holy grail, okay? But he says this is just an idea. It was a way to give people a quick reference of how to think about risk.
And I really try to focus on finding rational things and guides that people can undertake so that we don't have to fight about it all the time, right? Let's do what we can do to keep ourselves, our families, and our community safe.
Dr. Olozi was one of 14 specialists who rated everything from pumping gas to going to the movie theater to eating inside or outside with your friends.
Yeah, I really appreciated it. But Tanya, when I looked at this, I noticed going to the doctor's office, it was safer than many of the other things on the list.
Okay. And that's what I thought. I'm like, doctor's office, it's germy, you don't want to touch anything. I asked him about that specifically in reaction to watching a movie, which was on the high risk part. And I was like, how can that be when I'm in a big old recliner and I'm all by myself watching a movie? Well, he discusses it coming up at 5 o'clock. Hey, we're also talking money coming up at 5:30, stimulus payments and taxes. Don't forget, those taxes are due in less than a week. You can text your questions about stimulus or about taxes, 336-379-5775. We have 2 experts on to answer your questions starting at 5:30.
Okay, mic check. 45, mic check. Tom Hanks.
Welcome back to your 4 to 5. So actor Tom Hanks continues advocating for wearing a face mask in public. You might remember he and his wife Rita recovered from coronavirus. Hanks says that everyone should just do their part to help end this pandemic, and he says it's easy. Just wear your mask, social distance, and wash your hands.
I simply do not get it. It is literally the least you can do.
All right, so Tom Hanks seems to be a little bit shocked that people aren't wearing face masks. Our digital guru, Brian Bennett, is here today to find out what your reactions are. Brian, what are people saying?
A little bit of everything, Maddie. Some people clearly don't want Tom Hanks telling them what to do, and other people agree. Let's kick it off with Bobby. She says, I agree, not that hard to do. While Mark says, absolutely not wearing a mask nor social distancing. Todd says, who considers an actor's opinion to be important about anything? Go away, Hollywood. And lastly, Elizabeth says, truth hurts, obviously siding with Tom Hanks. Also in the article that is on WFNYnews2.com, he kind of correlates it to like traffic and how you have rules in traffic while you're driving to protect you and other drivers. And he's just basically saying that during this pandemic, you should be doing the same thing, wearing your mask to protect yourself and others as well. So some people trying to hear it, other people are just doing their own thing.
All right, Brian, thank you. Good to have him back on the show, right, guys? I mean, what are your thoughts about this? Some people just want to see actors act. Other people appreciate him using his platform to spread a public health message.
I just think the actors should act thing. That's just disrespectful. I really do. I mean, you have a big platform, right? So you should use it to talk about issues that you care about. Personally, I don't understand the deal with people don't wear masks. I don't think it's an infringement on your personal responsibility. Wearing a mask allows you to leave the house. I don't know, guys.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Tahisha. I'll say, well, the guy, he has the right to say what he wants to. Go away, Hollywood. That's kind of funny. But Tom Hanks has the right to say what he wants to, too. My philosophy is you do what you want to do, and I'll do what I want to do. I am completely in agreement with Tahisha that we should all be wearing masks as much as we can. And it is about, I know a lot of people say you're doing it for other people. You are, but it also, there is a degree of protection. Maybe it's not exactly what they're talking about to keep you 100% secure, but I think that you need to be doing that, not only for other people, but for yourself as well. And if nothing else, it's a show of respect to everybody.
I think Tom Hanks has a unique perspective, right? He was one of the first celebrities that we heard of, if not the first, to be diagnosed with this virus, he and his wife Rita, and he shared that experience on his social media pages. So now he's coming out and saying, look, 3 months later, I've already been through this. I'm telling you, it's no fun, and there are ways that we can prevent it from spreading. So maybe if we look at it from that angle, I think the issue, people don't like to be told what to do, and they don't like to feel like they're being lectured by someone. So maybe that's why people are pushing back to Mr. Hanks's video there. All right, well, you can continue to share your thoughts about this on our Facebook stream and our Twitter stream right now. Just use our hashtag 4 to 5. We'll be right back.
Hi there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Thank you.
You know, here on the 4 to 5, we love to hear about new businesses that are opening, especially restaurants. You know, we're all about the food here. Well, I found not only a new restaurant, which, by the way, opening a restaurant during a pandemic has some challenges, but also one of the greatest guys you'll ever meet. His name is Sal. He's opening up a pizzeria, and not just, it's one thing to open a pizzeria in a town, it's another if you're from Italy and you're opening a pizzeria during a pandemic. I asked him about all of this today. Take a look.
Sal, boy, I know these are challenging times right now. To start a restaurant in the middle of this COVID situation, I know has got to be tough, but how are you guys going to handle that?
We're going to follow the CDC procedure. In other words, you know, we're going to be careful with our customer, and we're going to be careful with our employees. So we don't want to get nobody sick. But, I mean, you know, we got the mask on here, so we're going to have to adapt. We're going to have to adapt with the situation there is.
But you guys are like right there. You're going to be opening next week. And when I heard Italian food, I said, I got to call my boy Sal because I love Italian food. Now, you're from Italy.
Absolutely.
What are you bringing over from what you learned when you were growing up in Naples?
Our philosophy of a pizza here, we have a New York style pizza, which is different from a Neapolitan pizza, which is cooked in a wood oven traditionally. So when the immigrant came over here in the 1900s, they started cooking pizza out of a coil oven. You know, they was making the big pies and selling little margaritas, and started cut them and selling by the slice. So that's what we bring in. We bring in the New York style pizza, the true authentic way. You know, we have a double deck ovens, stone ovens that originated in Barry, New York, you know, with blood-jet ovens. So it's the traditional way of making the New York style pizza.
I love it. I love it. You know what's going to happen though, Sal, is everybody's going to hear your accent and they're going to come back just for that, if nothing else.
I hope so. Not for my looks, anyway.
He is a character, and you have to check it out. I know that guy, I'm going to tell you, and I'm not lying here whenever I do say that people will go there just because they want to see Sal, right? He's the real deal. So if you want to learn more about his restaurant, I've linked you to their Facebook page. That's in this story. It's actually called Times Square Pizzeria, and it's in Greensboro, and he is awesome. All right, let's talk about a forecast for you because we're looking at kind of typical summertime situations for us. 70 for the overnight low tonight, mostly cloudy. The storms, if you're seeing any right now, they'll taper off like they always do. Then tomorrow, up to 89 degrees, a mix of sun and clouds with maybe an isolated storm. Rain chances tomorrow, only about a 20%. I think we'll probably hold that into Saturday as well. Sunday, a slightly greater chance. You can see some of the showers moving in. By the way, a different direction. This is coming from the northeast instead of our normal southwest or just from the west because of this low pressure that's off the coast. And most of the shower activity we're seeing now is the eastern half of our viewing area. I want to show you the long range forecast. You get the idea. There are scattered small pop-up showers and storms today. 20% for Friday, Saturday, 89 tomorrow, and then we lock in, folks, low 90s Saturday through Thursday of next week. Each day, that normal 20 or 30% chance of a late day shower or storm.
Coming up on WFMY News 2 at 5 o'clock, plates and bowls thrown, a chair slammed into a man's head. We're learning more about a fight that broke out inside of a Lexington restaurant over a crying toddler. The victim is out of the hospital and is sharing his story next on WFMY News 2 at 5. Hey, ice cold milk and an Oreo cookie, they forever go together. Hi there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yes, Governor Roy Cooper says he will not make a decision about schools.
Hey there, boys and girls. Tropical Storm Faye has formed off of the North Carolina coast.
Like things go smoothly, like just tune in again. Hey, mic check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Mm-hmm. And then there's a second one and a third one. Yep. Okay, so I'll stand right here.
It is time for my 2 cents. Maybe you've heard the term cancel culture before. It's the act of boycotting or shunning an individual, typically on social media, who has shared a questionable or controversial opinion or has had bad behavior in their past. Essentially, it's public shaming. It started rising in popularity a couple of years ago. People, brands, and even groups were all canceled. But now there's a shift. People want to cancel culture. Now, I'm a firm believer in second chances, redemption, and grace. Your past doesn't have to dictate your future. But when everything is recorded on the internet, every random tweet or share, it's hard to escape your past, even if it isn't who you are now. But instead of canceling people for their past, what if we educated them on their mistakes, forgave them, and helped them grow? What if we treated others the way we want to be treated and gave them an opportunity to make a change? Shunning someone from society and encouraging others to join you can do more damage to them than any of their past opinions or behaviors might do to others. We all have the opportunity to help each other and lift one another up. But that's just my 2 cents. That's your 4 to 5. WFMY News 2 at 5 starts right now.
Roy Cooper says he will not make a decision about schools until next week.
But the Guilford County Board of Education is not waiting to start the discussion. WFMY News 2's Jess Winters joins us live now with more on tonight's meeting.
The Guilford County Board of Education will be meeting in less than an hour, and they will be discussing the upcoming school year, but the district's hands are tied until Governor Roy Cooper does make that final decision next week. So instead of talking about the specifics like they thought they would tonight, GCS will present things like new state guidelines. Guilford County Representative John Hardister says he understands the governor is under a tremendous amount of pressure to make that final call, but it needs to be made soon so everyone can prepare.
Guilford County is the 3rd largest school district in the state, and guess what? It's the #1 employer in Guilford County. So you have all these employees, and the governor's going to have to make a decision soon and say, here's the plan. Now, it's contingent to change, but as of today, this is a plan. This is what you need to get ready for.
Governor Cooper said he wants feedback from parents and teachers so he can make an informed decision. He said that many times. So Representative Hardister took to Facebook to get that feedback. He got hundreds of comments.
The majority of parents and quite a few teachers I heard from want students to go back to school.